Good morning, my dear students. I hope you all are in the best of your mood and health. This is the part 2 of your history chapter, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. In the part 1, we already discussed about the introduction of the chapter and what we are going to study in the chapter. We talked about what was the form of government prevailing in Europe before and then how the people wanted to move towards freedom and liberty and how they wanted the empires to become a nation state. We already discussed what a nation is. A nation state. A nation state is a state where people have a spirit of nationalism in them, where they can do anything to support the interest of the nation. They identify their nation like we identify that we are Indians and we can do anything to support the interest of India, right? So today we are going to start the actual chapter of how did nationalism rise in Europe. We have 6 parts in the chapter. We can see 6 parts of the chapter clearly in the screen, okay? The first part is about the French Revolution and how did French Revolution led to the idea of nationalism. The second part, it talks about nationalism in Europe. The third part talks about the age of revolutions, all the revolutionary changes that took place between 1830 and 1848. The fourth part talks about how did Germany, Italy and the other parts of Europe like Britain, they became nation states and how they abolished monarchy. The fifth part talks about how the people in Europe visualize their nations. Now, visualizing the nation means how do you personify the nation? For example, like in India, you personify the nation by the motherland. We call India our motherland. It is not actually our motherland, but we personify it to attach feelings to it and to develop spirit of nationalism in it, right? So similarly, the people of Europe were developing a spirit of nationalism by visualizing the nation. The last part of the chapter, it talks about nationalism and imperialism. Now, what do you mean by the word imperialism? It basically means when you want to extend your country's power by capturing other nations with the help of maybe military or maybe other means. So that was happening at that time when people already became a nation state and now they wanted to capture other nations by using military and other powerful means. Okay, so that is all of the 6 chapters, but today we are going to start with the very first part of the chapter, that is how did French Revolution led to the idea of nationalism in Europe. French Revolution, it was a period of 10 years from 1789 to 1799. It was a period when people of France decided to overthrow monarchy, and then they decided that they themselves, the citizens of France themselves, will rule the nation. There were so many political and constitutional changes that came in French Revolution and led to the transfer of supreme power from the hands of the king and monarchs to the French citizens. The French Revolution basically had one message to convey. They said that the citizens of the nation will now rule the nation, and it is the citizens only who will shape the destiny of France. Clear, everyone? So, what were the major changes? If we talk about the major changes that took place during that time, they were as follows. The most, the very famous and the very first change I would say was the ideas of La Patrie and Les Citoyens. La Patrie means our fatherland. They symbolized France as their fatherland, and Les Citoyens means the citizens. The two concepts together combined and emphasized that France was a united community and it is only the citizens of France who could lead and rule France. Some of the other changes were like a new French flag. The new tricolor French flag replaced the former royal standard one. There was a new body of active citizens. Now, what do you mean by active citizens here? There is a difference between citizens and active citizens. Citizens means the persons or the citizens of France who get the right to vote, And at that point of time, it were only the men who were 25 years plus and had some property with them. So the wealthy men 25 years plus were known as the active citizens, and a body of active citizens named the National Assembly was formed. There were uniform laws all over the country. French became the common language of the nation. It was not that separate parts of France had different languages. It was one nation and one language. Okay. And the revolutionaries of France, the main people who led the French Revolution, said that it is their mission to change the destiny of Europe and free all the people of Europe from the clutches of monarch and despotism. Now, what happened? This was the time of 1789 to 1799 and all the revolutionary changes that took place in France. Now, what happened in 1799? 1799 was the rise and return of monarchy. A person named Napoleon, he came in power. He occupied a large territory of France, obviously by power. He destroyed democracy, and he seized all the political power and again brought absolutist system back in France. Now, what did Napoleon do? He brought a new civil code. A new civil code named Napoleonic Code was formed in 1804. It abolished all the privileges that were given to the rich and the wealthy people on the basis of birth. There were very many changes that were brought with the Napoleonic Civil Code. There were positive changes as well as the negative changes. But first, we'll discuss the positive changes that were brought with the Civil Code. The very first change was the very first change that was it brought equality before law. Napoleon said that all the citizens of France are equal before the law, and the privileges that were given before to the people on the basis of birth were to be abolished, right? And this was a very nice change because people actually developed that they were the citizens of France. The feudal system was abolished, and this code gave freedom to so many of the peasants that the huge fine they were imposed with, they had to that were all were abolished. They did not have to pay the huge fines anymore. There were uniform laws, a common currency, much better transport and communication, and because of which there was very easy exchange of goods from one region to the other. So, in short, if I would say, it led to the development of France, right? But obviously, it's a monarchy and he is the king. There is one master and only one law. Whatever he says is to be followed, right? So, the number of disadvantages this civil code carried were far more than the advantages. The number of disadvantages included huge taxation. There was huge taxes imposed on them. There was censorship. Now, here censorship means that anyone who spoke against the king or against the law was put in jail. There was no freedom of speech given, no freedom of press, and there was no freedom absolutely as to what you feel and what can you express, right? So this is very dangerous. And one of the most dangerous things, the most important of the disadvantages were that people were forced into the French army. Now, why do people were forced in the French army? It was because Napoleon had a aim. He had an aim to conquer the whole of Europe, and for that he forced people to join the French army so that he could fulfill his dream. So, children, do you see how did the time of French Revolution and all the major changes attached with it led to the spread of nationalism in whole of Europe? Because all the revolutionaries, they had a mission that they will spread it to all of the Europe and remove all the people of Europe from the clutches of monarch. Metternich once remarked, when France sneezes, the rest of the Europe catches cold. This was rightly proved, as all these revolutionary changes that took place during the French Revolution led to the idea of nation and spread it abroad. Okay, in the next class, we'll be talking about the making of nationalism in Europe. I hope this was clear to you. This is all for the day. Have a nice day, everyone.